Pilgrammed, a hidden gem in the RPG category in Roblox, with an average of about a few hundred to 1,000 or so players playing at once, which is too less with how unique the game is. Unlike popular RPGs like Blox Fruits, Pilgrammed does not have much RNG elements to it. As far as I've played the game at least, do correct me if I'm wrong. It's also way less of a bandit beater game than Blox Fruits. There's one thing that I really like in the game, which is the fact that you can parry attacks. This mechanic actually requires skill and timing, so the game isn't like those kinds of, oh, you gotta get the best items to be good at the game type of game, And here's the best part. Pilgrammed isn't pay to win. There are no game passes, and I don't think you can buy anything in-game with Robux either. That just makes the game fair for everybody. You can't just go into the game for the first time ever and just purchase like an OP weapon. Nope, can't do that. Sorry if I'm comparing games too much, so enough of that. I'm gonna show you how the game looks like inside. Not everything though. This isn't a tutorial, just an introduction to the game. So if you want to experience the full game, go check it out yourself. I'll link it in the description below. Right off the bat, there's a really cool menu screen with the game's background and even cooler music. And also there's a little secret. If you click the yellow words, it'll actually change the background and the music. That's just a little Easter egg thingy. There's different save slots, so you can have multiple builds on one account, which is really convenient. When you load a new file, you'll see that you've spawned in a cave. It's basically just a little tutorial teaching you the controls. Really useful. The game doesn't just plop you in and be like, well, off you go, have fun, without you even knowing where to go or what to do. Also, this skeleton NPC here teaches you even more controls. Alright, so first, I'm gonna show you the stuff that's on the thumbnail. So parrying. It's simple to do, yet requires precise timing. All you gotta do is press F on your keyboard to parry, which basically cuts off all damage taken. You gotta time it correctly though. Or you can press and hold F to block, only reducing damage taken. And boom, you're doing this little emote animation thing. Alright, I'm just gonna show you how parrying looks like and how blocking looks like. Next thing, you can forge gems onto weapons, which gives it a special effect and perk. There are 8 gems in the game. Some include the Frost Gem, which kinda chills the enemy and lowers its speed and defense. And another gem is the Light Gem, which increases the weapon's speed. Here's a weapon I have with a Fire Gem on. It looks epic. It even has this little cosmetic orange glow thingy. Here's a fighting style I have with a Charm Gem on. It basically makes critical hits deal more damage. And also, speaking of dealing more damage, there's another special thing in the game called Heavy Attacks. You just press R on your keyboard and you do an attack, which deals more damage than the regular M1s. That means if you get a critical hit using a heavy attack, the damage is sometimes crazy. If you wanna test your damage, there's actually test dummies you can use. Just attack them and your damage will show up around the dummy. If you're bored, you can also purchase a lute, which is a musical instrument, and you can actually play it. But even with all that being said, Pilgrammed is obviously not perfect and it has its own flaws. Now, I don't just want to keep yapping about all the cool stuff in the game, I want to be honest as well. There's one thing that the game is, how do I say this? Lacking? Maybe? Yeah. One thing Pilgrammed is lacking is guidance. I know I talked about the tutorial thing earlier, but I'm talking about after a certain point of the game, that it just stops guiding you all of a sudden. So right after the main quest, which is a few parts long, which includes the tutorial by the way, it just lets you off to explore, which is good maybe for some people, but for most of us, we don't know what to do after that. Like, where do we go after the quest? The first time I played Pilgrammed, I had to search up a tutorial / walkthrough on YouTube, but after watching that and getting the hang of the game, it's really enjoyable, at least for me. Ending on a positive note though, one last thing I think that is funny about the game is that it has some funny looking bosses with funny names. The rock looking thing you saw on the thumbnail, his name is Granny. There's also a boss named Old Fart, which looks like this tall mushroom guy. Yeah, kinda cringy but pretty unique. Alright, and speaking of mushrooms, this brings us on to the next game. Vesteria. I've searched up underrated Roblox games on YouTube, but I've never seen this game in any of the videos before. Does that make it more underrated? Probably. Like Pilgrammed, Vesteria is an RPG game. It has some pretty decent and detailed graphics which I love. When you join the game, you can see that the menu screen itself is better than some entire games, which is really saying something. So, all you gotta do is select the slot and press play. Now you can customize your character. There aren't many options, but sometimes simplicity is nice. It might take some time to load into the map, but once you do, you'll be captivated by the fact that there are abnormally sized mushrooms in the distance. And the soundtrack too. The music enhances the gameplay by so much. So I recommend that you turn on your volume. Now, Vesteria might just seem like a typical RPG game, but unlike most games, you don't get bored of Vesteria. Not as fast as the other games at least, because let's be real, you'll always be bored after some time no matter what. So the reason you'll probably be interested is because this game has 11 different playstyles for you to try. Well, technically 10 because one of them hasn't been fully released yet, and the playstyles do have specific names. They are called subclasses. They are secondary classes which branch off the 3 main classes in the game: Hunter, Mage, and Warrior. Each class and subclass has their own unique perks and abilities. For example, Warlocks can lifesteal and Hunters can double jump. Now next thing, you can actually rebirth in Vesteria. Rebirthing sets you back to level 10, but you gain a 5% XP increase every time you do. Also, it puts a Roman numeral beside your username, which represents how many times you rebirth. And yes, you saw on the thumbnail, at the 20th rebirth, you can get cosmetic glowing eyes. Speaking of cosmetic, there are dyes in the game which you can use to give your equipment a tint of a color. Okay, and I don't really know why, I just kinda ran out of stuff to say. This is crazy because I started playing Vesteria 3 years before I started playing Pilgrammed, and yet I still have way more stuff to say for Pilgrammed than Vesteria. This does not make any sense. Alright, this might be a terrible and abrupt ending, but I'll just leave it at that. And hopefully I told you enough about Vesteria. Probably not, but hopefully. And yes, the hot boss is real.